maybe talk about your experience with establishing a content marketing strategy and like a roadmap or plan for different folks, both internally and then externally in your agency experience,
Yeah.
and what you've learned maybe missing in some of those strategies, and just kind of talk through your experience there.
Yeah. So one thing I actually didn't answer my own question earlier was, when people are repainting the house, so like just changing the logo, they're like, what are we supposed to do? And the biggest part of, in my opinion, how we can tie the branding into content strategy is understanding how you want to rebrand is taking inventory of all your content. A majority of your content. If you have years worth of content,
Sure.
not all, let's don't overcomplicate it, but taking inventory of your existing content and understanding what works and what doesn't. So I was working in an agency. Like I said, I was on the B2B side trying to understand how we could market ourselves better. And I took a look at our blog content, which fed our email marketing, which fed our webinars, which fed our social. Their blog, and this was probably right before like video got really big. So like blog content was feeding every piece of all the other marketing channels. And it was very in-depth. It was very in-depth marketing. So I'm talking like the ins and outs of SEO, the ins and outs of paid search. So I'm going to, and I'm more of a generalist digital marketer. I have 8 years in digital marketing as a whole. I've managed everything from social, email, website, and then worked with people that are specialists. You know what I mean? That can dive deep into the SEO and that I can rely on. So for me, I was reading some of these blogs and I was like, this is a lot. Like this is a lot of information for me who has a career in this. Who is our audience? Who's our audience here? And when I met with leadership, like you said, in their opinion, the audience were small business owners and C-level executives. And I was like, well, we're not generating content for them. We are generating content for specialist marketers who are trying to learn more about this very specific niche. And it was great content for SEO. It was great for their website too. So, one thing I always say is like, don't come into a new marketing position and tell everyone what they're doing wrong, because you actually might not know the method to the madness, So I just had to ask a lot of questions and poke around, because we had a ton of content created by some of the marketers there that, they were just requested to do this content. But it wasn't really taking the target audience into consideration. I'm like, well, this is something we have to think about. And so leadership was like, we want more content for C-level executives and small business owners. And then the people that were working with our customers and our clients and that were client facing were like, they aren't the people getting on these calls all the time. It's people that are that we're working with companies that have maybe one marketer or an admin doing marketing that needs to, so there's just a lot of disconnect. So when you're coming up with a content roadmap, to get back to your question, everything I say is long-winded. It's so funny. To build a content roadmap and a content strategy, you need to understand that target audience. And like you say we already have them built out. You have to understand where your audience is in the funnel for your specific marketing channels. I'm at a behavioral health company right now, and I oversee all of our content and I manage our social media channels. If you were to ask, hypothetically, someone on the leadership team, what type of social content we should put out, someone might say to me, well, it needs to be about getting treatment. It needs to be about going through our healthcare system. But what I've found, because of the audience in my marketing channel, is that the people that are in that channel have already gone through the healthcare system. They've already gone through our continuum of care, and we need to give them support to stay healthy. You know what I mean? So you have to deeply understand where your audience is in your channels so you can create content for them. I think that's really important. Someone that's visiting your website might not be through that continuum of care yet. So you need to answer questions on your website that social might not necessarily need to answer. So when you're building a content roadmap, it's not only having an understanding of your target audience, it's where they at in the journey for your channels. when you build that roadmap, one of the things, like I said, especially because marketing teams are so small, is building those bigger pieces of content that can feed your other channels, whether it is in-depth blog content or videos and podcasts like this. You can take a transcript from this. You can create a blog. You can create a couple carousel posts. You can create TikToks and Instagram Reels. So that was a really long-winded way to answer that question. But I do think it's like understanding where your audience is in the channel and mapping out the type of content they need for that journey, and then adapting your bigger piece of content to match those channels. That's my favorite way to do it. Instead of just churning out content blindly, you'll exhaust yourself. And then someone's going to come in one day and be like, why did we write this blog? This doesn't speak to our audience. You know what I mean? And it's like, wait. So, and to tie it all the way back to the rebrand, when you're rebranding, these are things to take into consideration. So you know how to readjust your white papers, what the blogs are going to say, what your landing pages are going to say, what your ads are going to say. It's like, where are these people at in the funnel, and how can we speak to them in a way that'll really stand out to them? It's really understanding your content, what has worked before, where your people are at, and then mapping it out for the year if you can, if not 6 months, about like what type of content we want to develop for these people to nurture them at each point in the funnels.
You go through a rebrand, you go to the content market, like the content mapping, and you're going to get requests from sales, ownership, leadership. Every person in the company, every division wants to have their say in what content gets developed.
Yeah.
Do you have advice on, and let's be honest, nobody has the resources or the time to deliver all of that. I don't care if you have 20 people on your team and a $10 million budget. The list will exhaust the resources available. Do you have any advice for marketing managers where you would say, hey, this is how I would approach that process to try and prioritize or get down to what we have to do as opposed to what we want to do as we develop content?
Definitely. No, that is something my entire career, no matter where I've been, that is the biggest thing about being in marketing, is like everyone has great ideas because we are all consumers of marketing. Everyone has marketing ideas, and I just, to remind marketers too, because it can be frustrating. I just like to joke about it. It's just like, none of us can go to our finance departments and give them advice. I can't imagine going to my finance department and be like, hey, I have an idea of how we're going to beat this recession. Hear me out. But everyone is passionate about marketing and exciting about marketing. So it can be troublesome to always be getting feedback and input, but it is great that just everyone is so invested in marketing. So keep that in mind and just laugh about the fact that you can't go to other departments and do the same. But when you're having the bad day, just picture yourself doing it.
Sure.
Just imagine.
I like that.
That always gets a kick. Me and my team always laugh about that. But what I would recommend, and I have tried to do everywhere that I have worked, if it wasn't already in place, is developing messaging topics and content frameworks based on where your audience is in the so you have your marketing channels, right? And there's different needs for your audience based on the channels. After understanding that, diving into that, we could, like you said, spend an entire day talking about how to understand that. Derive messaging topics from those channels. So what are the things we are going to talk about, or we do talk about on a regular basis? And I'm telling you, they can be as high level as thought leadership,
Sure.
Aspiration, where I am, we have like also storytelling. We share stories of people in healthcare who have like great outcomes. So it could be like storytelling, coming up with just some general, I would say maybe like 3 to 5 messaging topics max. Like I think 5's even pushing it. 3 is probably your safest bet, especially for smaller marketing teams. Developing your messaging topics, content pillars, whatever you want to call them, the content pillars that all your content will revolve around. From there, what I like to do is map out the type of content you need month over month under those messaging topics. And I had a director once who, she is like one of my favorite people I've ever worked under. She was director of content strategy. I came in and she gave me a list of blog topics that we were writing for the year with a freelancer. She said, these are the topics we're writing about. Our white papers are going to be based off of this. Our brochures are going to be based off of this. And she had the dates lined out and everything. And I was like, I want to be this person. Like she had the content built out for the year based on the messaging topics that work for her company. And then brought me on, and I've never seen that level of content organization. And I was just like, this is going to save our lives. So she was like, if someone is going to ask for a blog topic or a webinar, one of these things has to come off the list. Our freelancers, we have a tight budget. Our freelancer can only do so much. This is what she is given. If we are to give her another topic, one of these has to fall off the list. And however you decide to do it, there's a million ways to come up with your messaging topics and map out your content for the year. It really depends on your company. Just having a framework in place helps prioritize requests. So if you have at least a quarter mapped out, or at least a month out of content mapped out of what you are doing, when something comes to you, you get to prioritize it based on a couple variables. You get to say, does this fit within our messaging topics? Yes or no? If it does, okay, great. Is this higher priority than the things that are on the list? Yes or no? No? Okay, is it evergreen? Is it timely? If it's evergreen, okay, let's put this on the back burner for when we're mapping out the next stage of our content, whether that's the next quarter or the next month, or next year even. If it is, say it's timely, it's something for an event coming up or a holiday coming up, you get to look at your content matrix and say, then what isn't a priority? What has to come? If you so much as have that flexibility. If you have that flexibility and say, which I will say, I do think in terms, a lot of marketing teams and departments do get to have that say where they're like, okay, if we are going to do this campaign, if we're going to create this piece of content, something else has to get moved to the next month. It's not, we're not doing it. It's, we have to move it. So having those things in place protect you from requests coming everywhere. So where I'm at now, we get meme requests a lot. We've talked about the memifying. I would love to memify where I'm at, but based on our messaging topics, like humor isn't something we're experimenting with. We experiment with storytelling. Sometimes that storytelling can have some playful anecdotes in it. We have storytelling. We have encouragement for people who have gone through our continuum of care. We have thought leadership. And this is all you can see this across our channels, but we aren't in, I can easily say when someone's like, can we do this really funny thing? I'm like, this doesn't fall within what we do as a company. This is how we can adapt it. If it's not funny, how can we make it, encouragement, or how can we do something similar in storytelling? It just helps you get the control back. I'm not saying marketing is about control, but you do need a level of control to maintain burnout in marketing, or you are going to be pivoting, starting and stopping left and right. So having the framework in place to be like, does this fit within our plans? Is it timely? Is it evergreen? Is it a necessity? And when you get to talk to leadership about okay, if we do this, then this thing might not happen, or we're going to have to create time and space. It is a lifesaver. It's a lifesaver that I don't see a lot of marketing teams have in place because we're so busy putting out fires and responding to requests. But I'm telling you, it is well worth the month to put together a content framework. It's so worth the burden. It's a lot of work up front to be like, okay, what are we talking about? Let's map the things out, but it will save your life every week as those requests come to you. I could have recommended more. If I could just do that for a living for a company, that's kind of what I have done for most of my career, is come in, give that framework and be like, this is how you're going to save your life in marketing. I would do that forever for everyone if I could, because it makes things a lot easier. And instead of just telling people no and getting people upset, then people outside of your team understand the process and respect marketing more for the formulated process that are in place. When you say yes to everything, you do start to lose respect in a way. I hate to say it because we do have to say yes a lot, but at the end of the day, if we're showing people we can say yes to everything and making everything work, everyone's like, well, then why couldn't I do it? It was my idea. When people
Yes.
there's a process in place and a strategy in place and a formal submission process to get those yeses or nos, people start to look at it as, hey, we're going to a team and it almost is like we're going to finance and telling finance what to do. It starts to bring it full circle. It starts to that because they're like, oh, they know what they're doing, and I think every marketer knows what they're doing, but sometimes we have to prove we know what we're doing. And that's the burden of marketing. So
thanks for watching this clip of the Missing Hat podcast brought to you by 50 Marketing. Be sure to check out the full episode linked below and our other resources.